Back with you now on Wave Listens Live. We have Cornerstone Wellness Center here, and Dr. Doug Kane, as always, in the house, bringing some expertise with you. And good to see you, as always, Dr. Kane.
Great to be here.
Let's talk about what you're such an expert on, things that we have touched on before, but for people who don't know you yet, what you can do for peripheral neuropathy.
So one of the things that I'm becoming known for in the community is the neuropathy reversal doctor. It is one of the most common neurological disorders diagnosed today. The vast majority of that is caused by diabetes. Many other cases are caused by chemotherapy. That was my mother's case. As I've mentioned before, that's how I got into this 7 years ago. And then we have things like chemically induced neuropathy, neuropathy induced from orthopedic issues like back injuries, failed back surgery, joint replacements such as knees and hips, or obviously foot injuries. It can happen to any nerve in the body, but it's most common in the feet, second most common in the hands.
I think it's so interesting because we've gotten to do a lot of segments together. You've brought, including your mother, several patients that you've been able to help throughout the years here, and we've been able to hear from them exactly what you did to change their lives. I imagine every time you have a story like that, whether it's personal or not, it's got to make you feel good that you're providing these services to folks that need it, that otherwise were having a rough time.
Yeah, well, it certainly makes you feel good, but there's also one of those things, once you have new knowledge, now you have an obligation.
And you want to share that.
Yeah, you've got to share that. You've got to be able to help people. Once I saw what it did for my mom, I'm like, how many other people out here have no quality of life, who are sitting in their chair, missing out on doing stuff with their family, can't get a good night's sleep, becoming depressed, and just feeling like that's all life has to offer at this point. And to be able to change this in as little as 90 days for some people, it's yeah, it's amazing. Like I said, I've been doing this for 7 years, and I'm still amazed every day.
That's what's so interesting about this, is because a lot of folks, I'm sure you've met neuropathy patients and sufferers who have dealt with this for maybe far longer than that and just didn't know that there were new techniques, technologies, things that Cornerstone Wellness is able to do. Can you talk about, if people maybe sought treatment a decade ago, what has changed between now and then?
Well, I was one of those people. I mean, we believe as physicians and those in the healing arts, we believe what we were taught in the classroom. So if you asked me 8 years ago if you could do anything for neuropathy, I was like, no, it's a progressive degenerative condition. I'm sorry, you're going to have to learn to live with it. Now I know different, but that news is slow to get out. And so we deal with people all the time. That's our biggest hurdle, is for people to understand that there is treatment out there. I was texting back and forth with a lady last night on one of our ads. Her name's Deanne. She's had a couple of doctors tell her that there's nothing that can be done for neuropathy. The second one was a little more harsh and said, it's just a scam and they're just out for your money. Well, number one, there's new information, and there's always new information, and that's a little harsh, and I don't think I would ever kind of, give that representation to another physician. But no, there's just new opportunities out there.
Well, we know also we have met firsthand right here on this very set people who have sat in the chair right next to you, to your left, and said, my life was to the point where I had nothing before I came to Cornerstone. I could not get out of bed because the pain was so intense, and now they're driving. They're living a normal life. They're going to graduations. They're enjoying summertime.
Yeah, that's great. Had a lady this morning that, her concern was, well, how do I pay for this? She was also a smoker, which is another thing that drives neuropathy, makes it worse. And so she decided that if she quit smoking, she could take the $280 she used a month to buy cigarettes on improving her health and paying for a neuropathy program. She's only 2 months in. She's done smoking, and she's getting feeling back in her feet, and she's able to go and do the activities she's talking about, going on vacation. That's going to require some walking. And she said, 6 months ago, she wouldn't even thought about that.
She probably would have been so nervous at even knowing how much walking would have been on a trip like that. You wouldn't even imagine planning it. And for her, taking the smoking aspect out of it, it's almost like she gets to take several steps forward. Instead of just the treatment, she took some matters in her own hands as well.
Getting rid of a bad habit and replacing it with something that's going to improve health long term.
I don't want to give away too much just yet, but I want folks to make sure that they stick around for the next segment, because Dr. Kane's going to stay with us. You mentioned some of the new technologies. You've brought some things here today that we're going to be able to introduce people to. Talk a bit about that before we go to break. What are we going to see?
So this is some some exciting new technology. It's called Shockwave, or it's called Softwave. It's a shockwave treatment. It is relatively new to the world. There's only 1,100 of these machines in existence.
Wow.
About 600 of them in the States.
Okay.
We are fortunate enough to have one of them. I am board certified in neuropathy and intractable pain, and this machine addresses both.
It's so interesting. It's hard for me because it's over out of the corner of my eye. I'm watching the setup right now, and anytime you can be in the presence of things that are changing lives, your attention directly goes to it. So I can't wait for folks to see after this break exactly how some of this works. And I imagine, especially for the people who are longtime sufferers, when they are starting to go through this process, it's got to be a pretty exciting day when they come into the office in a Cornerstone and start to go through this process finally.
It is extremely exciting. It's absolute game changer. I was fortunate enough to know a colleague that knows the doctor that imports these from Germany. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known about it. But I've got a couple of colleagues around the country that have used this, and the results are fascinating.
It's funny how life works that way. If not for this, where would your mother be today, for example?
Exactly.
Well, it's very exciting. We're going to introduce us to this equipment after the break. Before we go to this commercial break, I want you to leave folks with one of those things that you wish you knew when you got started 7 years ago that now seems like something that you get to tell everybody every time. What would that be?
Very simply, you don't have to live with this. You can reverse neuropathy. You can get the quality of life back.
I love to hear it. Okay, don't go anywhere. We're going to introduce you to some of the equipment that if you come to Cornerstone Wellness, you'll be able to take advantage of as well. Help with neuropathy. Stay with us. More with Dr. Doug Kane after the short break.